A spot that was right there, not too far from Turner Field in the area, in the Summer Hill area, and he asked me what I did for a living. And I told him I recently left corporate America. I was starting my own business. And he said, if you ever want to make some extra money in the meantime, well, give me a call, right? And but he took my number. I got started. I sat down in the same row as like what you all sitting right now today. And from that point, I recall that I didn't initially just go into the business with the mindset of this business can change my life, right? What happened was that I got started and then I went into what some call MPP, Missing Primary Planet, right? Because I was rapping on the side, right? That's what the whole going joke was when I was in the initial part, right? Working on the railroad, rapping on the side, but I already left the railroad. But here's the bottom line. I was in the studio and the guy who brought me in, my upline, his name is Jimmy. He brought me in and he would always call me, it seemed like when I was in the studio. Either I was always in the studio or he just always called me when I was there. I don't know. But he was always calling me and I was like, oh, yeah, Primerica guy calling me again. I just put it back down and I get back doing what I was doing, right? But one day, after I took some time to read this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I'm sitting at a graduation event for one of my friends, Patrice Capers, and at that event, he calls me again, and I'm sitting here, my mindset is different at the time. This is probably, I'd say, 5 months removed from me sitting in the seats where you're sitting at right now. And he says, hey, Boris, glad I caught you. He said, hey, I just want to let you know. He said, if you put me in front of 3 sharp couples, he said, then you actually know that you can use your license to make some money. And I said, okay, let me think about what I can do. And at that graduation party, I talked to somebody who said they was willing to sit down with me. And I also talked to another guy coming out of a club off Crescent Avenue when I was in some Huaraches and some torn up jeans. And this guy was selling hot dogs and hamburgers outside of the club, him and his wife, and I just sparked up a conversation, and needless to say, they said they needed some life insurance. I took Jimmy to go see both of these couples. Like a magician, I'm nervous. He walked in there, cool, calm, collect, closed both of them. I sat there and I was thinking to myself, oh, okay, good, we done. I have no clue what's about to happen. 2 days later, I get $550. I started thinking to myself, $550. I started thinking to myself, what have I really not been picking up this phone for? Because I just made $550. How many more times can I do this? Well, fast forward a couple of Thursdays later, I decided I was gonna go to LA Fitness. And I was supposed to be sitting in here. And I'm in LA Fitness, and after I get done, I head over to This Is It. Unbeknownst to me, a whole lot of people from the super team, everybody just start walking in while I'm in LA Fitness, workout gear. I'm just like, yeah, I'm living. I just, thought I just did the little training thing with Jimmy, and I don't come here. But what happened was, I started seeing all these people come in, and I get nervous. And with Tasha, I try to sneak out. She said, well, where you gonna sneak to? I was like, I gotta get out of here. Look over here. And as soon as I think I'm about to make it out of there, Sam, last one coming in the door. I was like, hey, what you doing over here, man? And then behind him comes Sharon. He said, I know you didn't go to LA Fitness and work out while we had the meeting. You coming to Sandestin? I said, he started stuttering, that don't mean that. He said, man, you need to be there. I walk out. I don't think nothing about it after that point. All of a sudden, I get a phone call. A guy named Kenyon Tyson. He He said, hey, Horace, he said, did you register for Sandestin? I said, are they talking to each other? What is going on? KT said, because if you want to go to Sandestin, he said, somebody was going to ride with me, but he said, you can ride down with me. He said, and just give me some gas money, and then you'll be, he said, you know, I already got the room and everything like that if you want to go to Sandestin. I was like, all right, I'll think about it. I ain't think nothing of it. Next day, I don't know what it is. I woke up the next morning, 5:36. I called KT. I said, hey, man, is that offer still on the table for me to go to Destin? He said, yeah, man. He said, I ain't got out of here yet. My mom drops me off at KT's. We ride off to Sandestin. On the way there, he said, man, if you're the right kind of person, he said, it's going to bother you sitting here watching people go across the stage and you're not there. And I didn't know what he was talking about, but I got there and everything about it bothered me. And about a month after that, about a month before that, I ended up going to the convention. At the convention, I'm sitting there, and the old CEO, guy by the name of John Addison, says, at the very end of it, the road to mediocrity is paved with good intentions. And I'll never forget those words when I was sitting there from the bleachers at my first convention, thinking to myself, wow, what can that really mean? So I'm walking out, and I'm talking to Jimmy, and now I'm just like a chatterbox. I'm like, hey, Jimmy, what's the highest you can go in primary? He said, I mean, you can be an RVP. I said, okay, like, is that it? He was like, no. I said, well, what else is it? He said, well, after that, he said, it's the SVP. I said, well, what is the SVP? He said, I mean, you got 3 RVPs. I said, okay, is that the highest you can be? He said, no. I said, well, what is it? He said, well, you got NSD. I said, well, what's an NSD? He said, well, NSD means that you got 6 RVPs. I said, okay, great. Is that the highest you going out in primary? He said, no. I said, well, what is it? He said, you can be SNSD. That's what Sam is. I said, well, what's that? He said, you got to have at least 9 RVPs. I said, is that the highest you go? He said, yep, that's it. I said, well, that's what I want to be. And doggone it, still to this day, that's exactly what I plan on being. Now, I tried to decipher so many nights what it is that I caught about this vision that so many other people missed. Like, it tossed and turned me so many times just thinking, like, how did they miss it? And it's so simple to get if you really just take the time to get it. And so I ascertained about 3 areas that I found people kind of fall in categories of. There's group 1. Everybody say group 1 for me. Group 1. Group 1. These are the kind of people, they get started in Primerica. And then a couple days later, they supposed to show up at an event and their cousin died, so they got to go out of town. And then all of a sudden you say to yourself, well, that would make sense, but I got one question for you. Did you show up to work? Not that I'm unempathetic, but are you really willing to work harder for somebody else than you're willing to work for yourself?
Right.
Because how many times do we raise our kids to grow up and send them to other people's communities so that they can beg for somebody else's job?
Come on, what?
And then there's group 2. Everybody say group 2.
Group 2.
Group 2. These are the people, they sign the IBA, and they think that just by putting their signature on the dotted line, that they gonna get rich tomorrow. I call these people delusional. Because they are under the impression that this is a get rich quick scheme, rather than a if you work it, you will get rich.
Period.
And if you put in the work, then you actually can have all of your desires met. But it's not any different than you showing up to work for your job. You just do it faster. You do it bigger. You do it better. Right? And then there's group 3. Everybody say group 3.
Group 3.
Group 3. These are the people that have good intentions. I mean, they're getting headway all the time, but every so often, whoop, something just knocks them back. And every single time they just get a little bit further, whoop, they get knocked back. These are distractions. And these people fall prey to them all the time. Not by any fault of their own. Unknowing to themselves, they believe that they actually have a great excuse for why they keep on having distractions. But in reality, it's almost like when you're on a football field and you headed towards the end zone. The end zone is where your goal is, and distractions is nothing but the other opponent trying to keep you from getting to your goal. Your job is not to consider this as a saying that I really don't like, which people say life is life. The reality is, nothing's new under the sun.
Amen.
Every time that something comes, the distraction just knocks them right back.
Right.
And so I started thinking to myself, these people that have these intentions, they really believe that this is something that is stopping them from where they need to be. And the person that makes it is a person who actually knows how to see these distractions and still keep going.
That's right.
Now, what I found is that these intentions that people have that they consider to be good are the things that they also think that should give them, because they have these intentions, the rewards that they believe they should have. And that's when it hit me. That's what John Addison was talking about. The road to mediocrity is paved with good intentions. Wow. It finally made sense. There's so many people out here believe that they should just have good rewards because they got good intentions. But in fact, you don't get things because you have good intentions. You get things because you go to work. You get things because you actually put in time. You get things because you actually go out here and instead of letting distractions take you, you have a focus about things. You get things because when life gives you lemons, you choose to make lemonade, and you don't get what you want out of life, you get what you work for. Right? And as a result of that, it became very simple. These are the things that people missed along the way. And so, what I identified is that everybody here has a choice. Right? And our choice is simple. Is that you get a choice right now to decide what your fate is really going to be based off the decisions that you make. Because we're born looking like our parents, right? But we die looking like our decisions. Right? And as a result of that, I started thinking about, as a 9th grader, when I was standing there in the cluster at the Benjamin Elijah Mays High School, through the halls that I traveled so many times, watching this picture. And all I remember was seeing up under that picture a quote that said, 2 roads divulged in one. And I chose the road less traveled.
Wow.
Robert Frost. And on this picture, on the right hand side, it's this green shrubbery with these great walk paths and this well lit path. And then on the right hand side, right in the fork of the road on the left, it's this land right here that's not as lit. Possibly a little bit more dark. Doesn't have any greenery on it. And it's not very well traveled, perhaps even empty. And I truly believe that the road to mediocrity was that land that had all that well-lit green grass on it, and the pathway that was already lit, that so many people have already chose the road to go down. But in turn, the area over here on the left-hand side that is less traveled, that's the area that so many people, they are so afraid to go down because it's so unknown. And when a person makes a decision and they can choose to do what's different, instead of always choosing to go with the crowd, listening to what everybody else has to say, that's when you're able to make a choice for your life that's going to change. When you get uncomfortable.
That's right.
So, tonight you get a choice. And I want everybody to repeat after me. I want you to say, I don't want what life's gonna give me.
I don't want what life's gonna give me.
I want what I'm willing to work for.
I want what I'm willing to work for.
I don't want to be mediocre.
I don't want to be mediocre.
I want to be great.
I want to be great.
And I'm willing to do whatever it takes
I'm willing to do whatever it takes
so that I can be great.
so I can be great.
New people. Y'all get with the person that invited you out and let them know you ready to get started. All right? Thank y'all very much.